Miss Janet Flanner with us to be interviewed by Benita Eisler.
For almost 50 years, Janet Flanner, writing under the pen name Genet, has exemplified the claim that every civilized man or woman has two homelands. One of them is France. Since 1925, the year that the New Yorker magazine was born, Genet's bi-monthly Letter from Paris has chronicled the arts, politics, and personalities of three French republics. Miss Flanner's return to New York heralds another welcome event, the republication of her only novel, The Cubicle City, first published in 1926. It's the fifth novel to be reissued in an inspired series, Lost American Fiction, published by Southern Illinois University Press. How does it feel to have a novel rediscovered and reread it again after 48 years? Is it like coming on a lost child?
Well, I think rather it gives me the status of a grandmother, great-grandmother possibly.
Did you feel about the novel that it was an adolescent child, a mature child?
Not frightfully mature. I don't think I'm a gifted novelist. I didn't think so then, and now I'm sure I was not. I like writing. I like publishing, but not novels. I like doing articles.
You discovered that after writing The Cubicle City that it was not, fiction was not for you?
Yes, I discovered it even before. I suspected the truth the moment I started on it.
Cubicle City, though, couldn't be more timely in two aspects. Its glittering Art Deco style and the subject matter, or the heroine, who is a sensual, liberated woman who would have chosen not to be married but finally succumbs because it's the only way she will not lose the man she loves. Do you think that today's feminist writing has added anything to what you've already known in the 20s?
I'm afraid that I suspected that by presenting my story, the theme of that novel, upside down, as it were, I think I flattered myself I was doing something new. I wasn't really doing anything new at all. I was simply the first person who'd managed to be so démodé that I didn't know how to write a novel.
Great women of the 20s inevitably brings to mind the symbol of them all, Isadora Duncan, whom you've described as one of the most fascinating women or people that you've known. What was she like?
Oh, fantastic. Very dangerous to go out with unless you had a pocket full of money. She'd see to that right away. And get to the bottom of your pocket before you could say Jack and Jill, too. She was a fascinating and a charming woman, one of the nicest women I've ever met in my life.
Did the money just go spent on everyone and everything in sight?
Everyone in the room. They'd all be around here. They'd all be hanging onto the coattails of Isadora.
Do you think it was her genius that made her as fascinating, or personality, or combination?
Oh, her personality was very alluring, very alluring. And she liked, there was something instinctively public about Isadora, which drew people across the room to her. She must have been fantastic in the old days when she used to, I've forgotten in whose house she was then living. She had, really, Isadora had so many lovers that I never can remember which, the house of which one this was. But I know I described Isadora rising from the table as she sat eating strawberry tarts, fresh strawberry tarts, of course, and drinking champagne. And Isadora's description of poverty, of being at the bottom, at the end of her money for the week or the month, was to say, I really hardly know where the next bottle of champagne is coming from. That meant her situation financially was rather desperate. She was a very charming woman and a very truthful and a very accurate woman. And she had an extraordinary nose for reality. Isadora knew about the truth.
Maybe it takes great romantics to have that sense of reality.
Possibly, I should think it might.
Do you think there's something about her genius that's peculiarly American? Thinking again of the expatriates.
Oh, yes, I think Isadora was essentially an expatriate, which is one of the reasons I think that she was able to dance so frequently and never to be an actress. She couldn't have been an actress.
What do you think that the expatriate experience for the Duncans, the Hemingways, Fitzgerald gave to their work and their art? Do you think it was something that could not have been achieved otherwise than those expatriate years?
Yes, I do, I mean to say. No, I don't think it could have been achieved elsewhere otherwise. They had to go abroad to live just the way a vine has to crawl toward the window and hang on to the window blind in order to get at the sunlight. No matter how falsified it is, it's the closest the plant can move to the apparatus of the sun.
Among the other expatriates of peculiarly native soil, you mentioned Fitzgerald and particularly The Great Gatsby as being the novel that meant the most to you. What do you think it tells us about ourselves?
Oh, I think it's one of the, to me, one of the most stimulating of the jazz period novels, and it offers, to my mind, the perfection of a kind of man whom I knew, whom all of us knew. We all of us saw him.
Gatsby.
Gatsby himself, who was the American wanderer whose home was a cafe, who could sit there and drink and live on sandwiches for all of his life.
Do you think it also illustrates a particularly American kind of despair or lostness?
Despair or what?
Lostness.
Oh, I think that we Americans are, unless we're homespun, which I never have been, it was a version of self that I missed, thank God. But yes, I think Americans are rather lost when they get abroad at first. If they are too satisfied, then they lose their entity and lose their accents, the first thing. And maybe that's a good thing, too. But there's an enormous drive on the part of Americans to improve themselves when they come to Europe. I think it's rather a good thing.
Despite your nearly half-century of living abroad, you maintain you're not an expatriate. How did you retain that distinction? You never assimilated.
That's just my statement. I mean, no one else has ever backed it up in any way. No one has ever said that, oh, my gracious, you're a complete and utter expatriate. I am. I'm not. What else could I be except an American?
With many who've lived there for much shorter periods of time, even less than 6 months, have taken on local coloration. Do you think it had something to do with your professional life, the fact that you were always writing for an American magazine?
Yes, I should think for one thing, it might have attached me to the language as my performance, after all. It's Funk and Wagner's that I consult. It isn't, you know,
Larousse.
Larousse, though why not?
As an eloquent chronicler of the de Gaulle years, you've said that you are one of his most unqualified admirers.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I would have followed that man. He never invited me in any way.
His loss.
Oh, yes. What an attractive man he was to me.
When did you first encounter him and under what circumstances?
Well, at his famous press conferences that he gave, must have been in 1920-something or other. And of course, all of us went to all the journalists. Well, you would have been more easily desexed and analyzed than you would have missed one of those press conferences. And they were so fascinating and so extraordinary. It was a little tiny, it took place in the Palais de Maintenon in Paris, where Madame de Maintenon had lived and carried on high, I suppose. And the attendance at these press conferences of de Gaulle was about 2,000, 3,000 people. a sight such as one never saw at any other time. The heat was something intense, because they always had to have they always took movies at the same time of him.
Well, what made his presence so extraordinary among these multitudes? I mean, that you felt so personally a sense of encounter.
Because one knew so much about him. Because he entered into one's consciousness. This, of course, was a voluntary invitation, which each one of us, I think, gave. I thought he was a very great man. I thought he was one of the greatest personalities that I'd ever listened to or looked at.
Do you think he had any lasting influence on the French, that he changed them in any way when his reign ended?
He remains a very vivid and violent memory. That's a very great epitaph to have,
It certainly
in my
is.
estimation. And for me, as I'm not a great worshipper of the tomb, oh yes, he was an extraordinary man. One felt so, the voice, one felt so stimulated by the voice, by the mind behind the voice, by the mind and the body, and the voice which carried the feeling that it was the voice of France. Well, that's enough to move anyone.
It is indeed, and what a privilege to have been present.
Oh yes, he was an extravagant human being.
That's even the best epitaph of all.
Oh yes.
Thank you so much, Miss Flanner, for being with us.